What's going on, guys? This is Real Deal Fantasy HQ with your boy LQ, and fantasy football season has officially started, people. Kickoff is around the corner. Now, we're going to be talking about today about potential running back and wide receivers that can help your team out. Some guys that are worth a look that stash away for later in the season. Some RB2 potential, some wide receiver 2 potential. You know, some guys that are in the mix right now that are on the bubble trying to make a name for themselves. So let's get right into the episode. So let's talk about the Steelers running back James Conner. I'm pretty sure you heard the news about Bell holding out. It'll probably hold up until November, so he's definitely worth a pickup. 55% of owned in the league. I'm sure that number spiked up as soon as everybody heard the news, so if he's still there, grab him while you can. But for now, we're going to move on because that's the obvious. So we're going to be talking about C.J. Anderson. 53% of the leagues own him right now. Now, he's coming off a 1,000-yard season. He's on the Panthers offense right now. So with McCaffrey there, Panthers are already signaling they're going to be using heavily into the offense. He's going to be all over the place. He's going to be getting the ball probably, the early downs. But C.J. Anderson has some upside slightly, being that he could be on the goal line and get those touchdowns. Week one, we'll have to see how the splits actually go, or where they put him in. Are they going to put him in inside the 20 or only on the goal line? Like, how are they going to exactly use him? So if he's still there, he's probably the best guy to pick up on the waiver wire right now, just in case anything happens to McCaffrey, because being that they're going to be using him so heavily, injury happens. So you want to be the guy to pick up C.J. Anderson once McCaffrey goes down and have him stashed away on your team already, so you already know he's going to be the RB1 coming off of the 1,000-yard season. So there's plenty of upside there. So he's more of a just-in-case pickup off the waiver wire. We're going to move on to the Colts running backs. Now, you got Jordan Wilkins. He's only owned in 30% of the league, so Nyheim Hines is a little bit fumbling prone, and Marlon Mack's dealing with a hamstring right now. So it's looking like he could be the clear-cut running back one for week one. Now, with Mack dealing with hamstring, I do expect him to come back in and cut into those carries. But if Jordan Wilkins performs like he had in the preseason, where the Colts were very satisfied with his performance, he could show his size and ability week one that he could take this job and run away with it. But let's just keep an eye on his volume of what they're going to do with him for the next couple of weeks. But he's definitely worth a look at on the waiver wire. Pick him up, stash him. You want your bench to be filled with a bunch of upside, not a bunch of bodies sitting there where they're just taking up space and you're never going to start them, or they're just there to be, just to be there. Now, you want your bench full with upside just in case of injury, bye weeks, and etc. So he's definitely worth a pickup. Jordan Wilkins, I'm definitely all in on picking him up. He can even potentially be started week one for me. Next up, we're going to be talking about Austin Ekeler. He's owned in 17% of the leagues. He's looking like he could be a solid flex play. Now, he's going to be great for PPR leagues because he's going to be on the field more often than not for the passing game. Melvin Gordon's terrible at pass blocking, so that only means that they can plug him in into like a Danny Woodhead role, where he's going to be catching balls out the backfield. So he was averaging more yards per carry first and second down than Melvin Gordon. So that only means he's going to be seeing a higher volume of production this year, but being that the Chargers only have 3 running backs on the stable right now, him being listed at number 2. So he could potentially be a great stash for you. It'd be a solid flex player. I'm pretty sure he's still sitting there on the waiver wire, so go get him. I'm not telling you to start him week one. Just keep an eye on him. He's worth a look. Right now, we're going to be talking about wide receivers that you could probably pick up off the waiver wire that's still probably available to you that can be a good stash for you. Now, Kenny Stills, I'm loving his upside to be potentially the wide receiver 1 on that team. Last season, he saw 105 targets for 867 yards and 6 touchdowns. He's owned in 67% of the leagues, so it's letting me know that everybody's catching a wave on this guy. Now, Devontae Parker's dealing with a hand injury right now, so he's probably not ready to go for week one. Now, Danny Amendola's there. He's also injury prone, so I don't expect him to complete the full season. So Stills has plenty of upside. I'm loving his upside right now, him being the wide receiver 1 on that team. Now, with Jarvis Landry going to Cleveland, that opens up more targets for him, more targets for anybody else on the team, but I only see Kenny Stills getting majority of those targets. Now, he could probably get 125, 130 targets, over his 105 last season. So that's great news for plenty of opportunity. That's a solid flex player. Not telling him to be started week 1 to jump into your wide receiver 1 or wide receiver 2, but he's a good flex right now, being that Devontae Parker's hurt right now. So if he's still available on your waiver wire, he's definitely a guy to pick up right now. Now, real quick, Keenan Cole for the Jacksonville Jaguars. Now, it's pretty obvious that, you know, if you haven't heard, Marquise Lee is out for the season. So he's probably the most productive wide receiver right now on the Jags offense right now. So it looks like he's going to be the wide receiver 1. Still available in 50% of the leagues, which I don't know how. But if he's still sitting there, you need to go grab him right now if you're hurting that wide receiver. He can be potentially a good flex player if you are hurting really bad to start him week 1. But I like his upside. I like him being the clear-cut guy in Jacksonville that Blake Bortles will target most of the time. This next guy we're going to be talking about is Chris Goodwin on the Bucks. He's owned in 31% of the leagues. It's going to be heavily used into that Bucks offense. So they're even considering that he would probably be a wide receiver 2 and beat out Deshaun Jackson for his job, which I wouldn't be too surprised of in the first couple of weeks. So keep an eye on his volume, but definitely he's poised for a breakout year. He could be a potential gem for you guys to be stashing off the waiver wire. He could be a waiver wire hero, so we all love those. He is looking like he can be the guy next to Mike Evans. He had a solid preseason performance, so he's definitely a guy you want to keep your eye on. He's worth the look. Now we're moving on to Baltimore. John Brown. He's owned in 19% of the leagues. Now him and Joe Flacco seem to be building a tight chemistry. Now his last 2 seasons weren't too wowing because of his health. It's a gambling you're willing to take. You want guys that are sitting on your bench, like I said before, with plenty of upside, not just a body. Now, the Ravens have him listed as the top wide receiver there, so that's great news. His specialty is the deep ball. So Joe Flacco will be throwing at him plenty this season. So with the deep ball threat into his specialty, I expect him to be scoring a lot of touchdowns this season. So with that gamble of his health, there's plenty of upside there and very little risk. He's just going to be on your bench. He could potentially be your flex starter if things pan out. There's not many wide receivers right now on the waiver wire that have a clear-cut wide receiver 2 path as much as John Brown has, especially with the offense he's going into. You know, the revamped wide receiver core. This is the best receiver core that the Ravens probably had in a very long time with Willie Snead, John Brown, and Michael Crabtree. So that only means good news and potentially for him to be shooting up the scoreboard this year with John Brown with that deep ball being his specialty. So that wraps up the episode. I hope you guys liked the video and the information I gave you guys, and I want you guys to like and subscribe for me. Leave a comment below on what you guys think about the video, and I'll see you guys next week for another episode of Real Deal Fantasy HQ with your boy LQ. Peace.